What if I told you the scariest villains in horror history weren't human, not a masked killer, not a ghost, but cars, machines with a mind of their own, hunting, stalking, punishing anyone who crossed their path? Two legendary killer cars dominate this realm. The cold, unstoppable menace of the car, 1977, and the fiery, obsessive 1958 Plymouth Fury, known as Christine, 1983. One is pure force, relentless, faceless, and terrifying. The other is alive, jealous, vengeful. A villain with personality, intent, and charm. Today, we're exploring their origins, their powers, their scariest moments, and their lasting impact. By the end, you'll see why one car isn't just remembered, it's feared, celebrated, immortalized. But before we crown a winner, we need to rewind to where it all began, where horror first collided with horsepower, setting the stage for a battle that would echo through decades. 1977, a quiet, desert town. And suddenly, chaos. Audiences were introduced to something both terrifying and absurd. A car without a driver, possessed by pure malevolence. The car starred a black 1971 Lincoln Continental Mark III, and it wasn't just a vehicle, it was an unstoppable force of evil. No motives, no backstory, no weaknesses. It existed only to hunt, destroy, and terrify anyone unlucky enough to cross its path. The film borrowed inspiration from the 1971 TV movie Duel, which showed the terror of a relentless machine. But the car turned that idea up to 11. Here, horror wasn't subtle. The Lincoln struck bikers, townsfolk, and anyone who dared enter its path. It was unpredictable, it was merciless, and it could appear anywhere, at any moment. Sheriff Wade Parent became the audience's surrogate, desperately trying to protect the town from something that couldn't be reasoned with or outrun. Panic spread, fear mounted, and every encounter left viewers holding their breath. The genius of the car lay in its simplicity. It transformed an everyday object, something familiar and mundane, into a vessel of pure terror. But as groundbreaking as it was, there was one thing missing: personality. The Lincoln was terrifying, but cold and faceless. It showed that a car could be a villain, it could inspire fear, but it couldn't charm, it couldn't manipulate, it couldn't be truly human or personal. The terror of the car wasn't just in the story, it was in the machine itself. Hollywood legend George Barris, the mastermind behind iconic vehicles like the 1960s Batmobile, took a standard Lincoln Continental Mark III and transformed it into a nightmare on wheels. The roof was lowered, the front end reshaped with solid metal to give it a menacing presence, and a matte black finish made it look as if it had crawled straight out of a nightmare. Tinted windows hid any hint of a driver, keeping audiences on edge with the constant question, who or what was behind the wheel? Practical effects were key. The car's horn even played in Morse code, a subtle signal of danger for anyone paying attention. Stunts pushed the limits of what a car could do on screen, flipping off cliffs, surviving explosions, and chasing actors through tight streets. One infamous mishap sent the Lincoln hurtling through the air due to a failed pipe weld, narrowly missing the camera crew, proving that even behind-the-scenes chaos added to the film's unnerving energy. Every detail reinforced the Lincoln's inhumanity. No motive, no personality, just unstoppable, faceless terror. The car established a new archetype in horror cinema, a vehicle as villain. Its menace came from sheer force, unpredictability, and the impossibility of escape. But it also revealed the genre's limitation. Without a personality or connection to humans, the fear it inspired was raw, but impersonal. It was groundbreaking, yes, but the next evolution would prove that a car could be more than a mechanical menace. It could be alive. It could be personal. It could be Christine. 6 years after the car terrorized audiences, a new contender arrived, one that would redefine what a killer car could be. 1983. Stephen King's novel Christine was brought to life on the big screen by horror maestro John Carpenter. This wasn't just a story about destruction, it was a tale of obsession, transformation, and vengeance. Christine, a 1958 Plymouth Fury, was instantly unforgettable. Striking red paint, smoked windows, a presence that demanded attention. Unlike the faceless Lincoln, Christine had personality. She had favorites. She held grudges. And she could manipulate her human accomplice, Arnie Cunningham, in ways that made the terror deeply personal. The car wasn't just a machine, it was alive. When Arnie repaired Christine, she reshaped him in return. Confidence, boldness, a dark connection that transformed him into her loyal partner. Anyone who threatened her or Arnie faced consequences. Every act of violence was intentional, calculated, and intimately tied to the humans around her. Carpenter's direction brought Christine to life with practical effects that made her feel sentient. She could repair herself, survive fire, and rise from wreckage like a reborn predator. Every chase, every vengeful act, carried suspense and dread. Where the car introduced the concept of the unstoppable vehicle, Christine elevated it. She proved that a car could be terrifying and personal, a character in her own right. She wasn't just a threat on the road, she was a force of horror audiences could feel, a villain with personality, motive, and style. Christine didn't just chase victims, she manipulated, charmed, and punished them. She wasn't just mechanical, she was monstrous. What made Christine truly terrifying wasn't just her personality, it was how she came to life on screen. Filmmakers went to extraordinary lengths to make every move, every repair, every act of vengeance feel real. Over 24 Plymouth Furies were used during production, each customized for stunts, close-ups, or in-camera effects. One car was rigged with hydraulics to self-repair, creating the unforgettable moment when Christine rises from wreckage, seemingly alive, ready to strike again. One of the most iconic sequences shows Christine emerging from the flames of a gas station explosion. Stunt driver Terry Leonard, clad in a full firesuit and oxygen tank, drove the blazing car with blacked-out windows. Every detail was meticulously planned, ensuring audiences couldn't tell if a human was at the wheel or if the car itself was alive. Even the smallest touches mattered. Christine's glossy red paint symbolized both danger and seduction. Every scratch, dent, and repaired panel contributed to her presence as a living, vengeful entity. Unlike the car, whose terror came from unpredictability and speed, Christine's horror came from intent. She could choose her victims, punish them personally, and manipulate those around her. By the time Christine revved her engine and sped away from another scene of chaos, audiences weren't just watching a car. They were witnessing a character, a monster, and a symbol of obsession and revenge all in one. Christine wasn't just a killer car. She was a living, breathing nightmare, and she raised the bar for horror on 4 wheels, proving that terror could be personal, precise, and unforgettable. When it comes to killer cars, fear isn't just about speed. It's about intent, presence, and power. The car was terrifying in its simplicity. A black Lincoln Continental with no driver, no personality, no hesitation. It crushed, ran down, and destroyed anyone in its path, unstoppable and merciless. Its power came from randomness, unpredictability, and the chilling idea that you couldn't reason with it. Every scene kept audiences on edge, because at any moment, the Lincoln could appear out of nowhere, strike, and vanish. Christine, however, added layers that made her unforgettable. She wasn't just indestructible, she had motive, memory, and a twisted sense of loyalty. She could protect her driver, punish those who harmed him, and even manipulate Arnie's actions to ensure her own survival. When damaged, she didn't stay down. Practical effects brought her back from wreckage, stronger, more menacing, and almost impossibly alive. Her horror was personal. She could stalk victims with precision, strike when they least expected it, and even charm or manipulate others before unleashing her wrath. Unlike the faceless Lincoln, Christine had a mind, a personality, and a terrifying sense of purpose. In the battle of horror impact, Christine clearly takes the edge. The car introduced the concept, a mechanical monster, relentless and raw. Christine perfected it, a living, vengeful character with personality, intent, and cinematic style. It's the difference between a machine and a monster with a mind, between fear that's random and terror that's personal, between being watched and being hunted. Christine didn't just scare audiences. She captivated, manipulated, and lingered in nightmares long after the credits rolled. Not every legend is celebrated right away, and both the car and Christine proved that in very different ways. The car arrived with an ambitious concept, a faceless vehicle as a villain. Critics were unsure how to react, and audiences weren't quite ready for a horror film without a human antagonist. Box office numbers were modest, and for a time, it seemed like the Lincoln might be forgotten. Yet over the years, its relentless menace earned recognition. Fans began to appreciate the raw, mechanical terror it brought to the screen, a force of evil that couldn't be bargained with, outrun, or understood. Today, the car holds a special place in horror history, a cult classic admired for its daring and pure, unrelenting fear. Christine, by contrast, found acclaim more immediately. Carpenter's adaptation of King's novel captured imaginations with its mix of supernatural horror, teen drama, and unforgettable practical effects. Critics praised its suspense and creativity, and audiences were drawn into the story of obsession, transformation, and revenge. Christine wasn't just a killer car, she was a character, and viewers connected with her terrifying presence in a way the Lincoln never allowed. Over decades, Christine's reputation has only grown. She's not just remembered for scares, but celebrated for her cultural impact. Fans still discuss her mechanics, her personality, and her chilling influence on horror cinema. The car laid the foundation for killer vehicles, but Christine proved that a car could be iconic, memorable, and even revered. In the end, one is feared for what it does. The other is remembered and admired for who it is. Both films shaped the genre. Both earned devoted followings. But it's clear why Christine continues to haunt screens and nightmares decades later.